Mr. Tulsian is also with us. Mr. Tulsian, it's now slipped to the lowest point this year. Do you think the sell-off is purely technical in nature, or is there any fundamental trigger, the lingering impact of which is damaging the market right now?
See, Sonia, it is difficult to give a word to this fall. Definitely, I won't call it as a technical fall. Maybe the technical analysts may say that the supports have got broken and all sort of things. But when you see the carnage, happening even in the frontliner stocks, maybe the stocks like many of the stocks, if you see the PSU banking, cement parcels, I don't think that there are any fresh concerns. So probably all this indicates that the political uncertainty, because yesterday we had respite that probably DMK may will reconsider their decision, but considering the situation, probably market is looking that one may see this effect of the political uncertainty getting heightened from here on, and that is the reason which is in fact getting reflected into the stocks. In fact, you don't have respite in any of the sector or stocks where one can take a respite. Maybe barring obviously in this weak market you are going to see some of the stocks faring little well, but still those are not even on those stocks there are no convictions. So I will probably be calling it as a something some fear which is building up in the mind of the people. I'm not taking a call on the mid cap carnage, which has again resurfaced today, and the kind of weakness we have seen between 10 to 20% or 10 to 15% in many of the stocks. But definitely some weakness or some fear is definitely building up in this market.
This couple of days. Mr. Tulsian, afternoon, there seems to be a complete carnage coming into the real estate space. The index itself has lost around 9.5% in this week itself, 3 trading sessions. What exactly is plaguing it, and what do you think is the way forward now?
See, definitely we have been talking that there is poor offtake, in most of the projects being undertaken by these companies, because the construction work which you see the companies, which they are all carrying out, whether you talk of the Bangalore pocket or Mumbai or NCR, all the high-rise apartments are all being made, which is going to take the completion time of maybe 4 to 5 years, and generally people have been having lower interest in those things. But I think that the problem seems to be more of the liquidity concerns, on which we are in fact spreading the same kind of weakness or fear getting spread to the other real estate stocks also, which are not seen to be so vulnerable. Take the case in point is HDIL, where we are again seeing the downgrade by the rating agencies, default on the interest payment, and they are not unable to make good their or meet their financial liability. So the effect of that is coming on all the stocks. I don't think that situation is really so worsen or so bad on the ground. There are many companies which are in fact doing quite well, and we have not seen any kind of concern. So maybe the fear on the real estate sector that probably the things may go worsen in many of these companies. This may get spread to many of the companies, probably keeping this sector under weakness.
Mr. Tulsian, what is it about the political situation that the market is worried about now? Because even without the DMK's support, the government can stay afloat, and there's no real reason to believe that some of the reforms like the diesel price hike, etc., will come to an end just because the DMK has withdrawn support. So what is it about politics that's worrying the market?
See, Sonia, it is not the worry of collapse of the government, but as you have rightly said, in fact the worry is more on the reforms. And I don't think, since you have touched upon the diesel price hike, the way we have seen it getting deferred for its third tranche, which was due on this 15th or maybe about last week on Friday, has not happened. And now going forward, definitely when you have the two parties, Samajwadi and Bahujan Samajwadi Party, both will be trying to gain the mileage out of any of the reforms move, because they can very well project that as anti-common people or something like that. And coming specifically, if you see, many of the reforms are pending, and biggest is that of the power front. Maybe on the power fronts, maybe the clearances in respect to the power projects, or maybe the feedstock, or the coal pooling by the Coal India. There are so many other things pending, and maybe if you take on the road projects also, which the finance minister has hinted in his budget that it will go through in the next 6 months or so, are, you know, seen to be very difficult. And coming specifically on the populist measure, yesterday, you know, we have seen that food security bill, where again the allocation will be increasing it by about maybe 25-30,000 crore, with 1,25,000 crore as the food subsidy, you know, against the estimate of 85,000 or 90,000 crore in the budget, are also, you know, seen that probably the government has to dole out more populist measures, you know, to keep the other allies happy. So it will really be a very difficult task. Market is not taking any kind of call on the collapse of the government and elections happening in the near future, but it is more of a complete halt or maybe a grinding halt on the reform process, not alone on the diesel price hike, but there are so many issues. So probably that worry is keeping, because going by the bank Nifty, if you really see the concerns on all the PSU bank, probably indicates that the fear of maybe the correction in the PFC REC also clearly indicates that the market is very much disturbed on the halt on the power generations, that those reforms are not likely to come through in the next or maybe in the near term or so.
Mr. Tulsian, any thoughts on the sale OFS, and you think it'll sail through easily, for lack of a better word?
See, I don't think that this is the right time. Honestly, I don't understand that what is the need of going for the first tranche of 6% dilution, that too at a valuation now at such a pathetic valuation. Firstly, there are no appetite at all for the metal stocks, and more specifically on the non-ferrous. In fact, more specifically the ferrous one. Even the non-ferrous stocks are taking a beating. So I don't understand that what is the logic, or you know, what is the rationale for pushing ahead this OFS. Maybe government will be able to mobilize 1,000 crore rupees, which will just be a shift from the insurance companies, because I don't think that any kind of, whether you talk of the retail investors, domestic institutional investors, or maybe the overseas institutional investors, will at all be interested in this, because I was really stunned to see when they have not shown any kind of interest in National Aluminium, how they will really be interested in this steel authority. So probably, maybe I won't be surprised that tomorrow we may see that government has decided to, you know, defer this OFS of steel authority at the current valuations, and in the current scenario I don't see any logic of going ahead with this OFS.
Hold on, Mr. Tulsian, I wanted to ask you, you know, what is happening with ADAG now? Reliance Infrastructure is down 10%. Is it just because of its high beta nature, or is there something else?
Sonia, at this stage you can only attribute one reason, that's the high beta, because generally, you know, we always see, I won't be able to what you call substantiate further, because that may not look correct at this stage, because generally whenever we see all the stocks, you know, getting corrected, they all, you know, fall in the same with the same pace and same force, because I don't think that there is any correlation. You know, one can understand for taking a negative call on RCom and R power, because as I expressed my view earlier, that you have the apprehensions on the power front, even on the telecom space we have the apprehensions, but you don't find any reason for R infra and R capital to really correct so much, because R capital cannot be said that all the banking stocks are correcting, so this stock is also falling. So generally, because of their high beta nature, and generally, you know, all the four stocks, they move in tandem. You know, whenever we see them going up, they all move up by 6 to 8%. So the high beta nature is probably, you know, making all of them to correct, because people have been talking that yes, lot of informed activity keep happening in these stocks and all that. So whenever you have the kind of pressure coming in, maybe from one side of this or from any of the stock, you get that extended to other stocks in the ADAG stable as well.